Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Field.
And I'm Mike Butler.
And you're listening to Forgotten Cinema, now showing. So we're doing something different today. We're going to do a bonus episode of a film that is new. That's, fairly new. Mm-hmm. It's not like our Forgotten Cinema where we look back and kind of break down what we like about the movie and don't like. If you're into Forgotten Cinema, please feel free to visit our other episodes. So we did this now showing episode once before. We did it for a movie called Maserati. And we were approached again by TriCoast Entertainment for a second movie. And of course, we agreed. So this movie that we're doing now is called Wow Signal. And I'm going to tell you right now, Butler, I never knew what the Wow Signal was. I never heard of it before this movie. So why don't you, so this documentary is about the Wow Signal, but I guess why don't you let everybody know what the Wow Signal is?
So the Wow Signal was a signal found by basically SETI observers, or the early days of SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. They found a signal August 15th, 1977, using radio telescopes, observing obviously a part of the night sky, part of space. And it was a very powerful signal, 6EQUJ5.
Right.
Which on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, and then using letters, obviously the fact that they started using letters, this signal was huge, where most of the night sky puts out 1s and 2s. This signal was an incredibly powerful single time short burst signal that had never repeated. It's one of the most mysterious signals in the night sky that's ever happened, which basically tells a lot of observers and stuff that it could be extraterrestrial intelligence. The theory is that extraterrestrial intelligence, if they wanted to talk to us, would possibly be through radio signals that would reach us through a specific short burst radio frequency on a scale that was clearly purposeful and not constant like most other celestial objects.
Yeah, that's all. We can go down that large rabbit hole if we want to about ET and whatnot.
Right. So
we probably don't want to.
Yeah. So the Wow Signal, once it was recorded, it got printed out on a sheet on that code.
So astronomer Jerry Amen, or I think it's Amen, discovers the anomaly because he's supposed to be, he goes through the sheets because basically this thing is listening to the skies, listening to the radio waves because it's a radio telescope. Right. They're not there looking at that. Right. So he has to do it. He does that at home, and this is where he finds it. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, he finds it. The signal happened shortly after 11 p.m. on his sheet. He sees the signal. He circles it and writes the word "wow" next to it because it's an anomalous signal.
Right.
And that's kind of how the popularity grew. And from then on, people over the last, 30, 40 years have been trying to figure out, where did this signal come from? Was it extraterrestrial? Was it man-made? Was it a mistake? Was it celestial? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what the documentary is about. Yeah. Right. But the documentary also covers, radio telescopes, the birth of radio astronomy, and what the SETI Institute's like today.
It kind of goes off a little on a bunch of different tangents. It talks about SETI. It talks about, just basically about the whole organization and what they do. It follows the intern, the girl Ellie, who makes dolls for the Green Bank
facility,
the observatory. So, and then it talks about it kind of goes into the project that the Russian billionaire and Stephen Hawking were doing, where they kind of they put money into Green Bank to kind of,
to show that it was saved,
to basically to look for extraterrestrial life. So kind of like, it's not just it is about the Wow Signal, but it's also about a bunch of different other things. So I thought that was, interesting. Kind of, how much can you do about the Wow Signal? I'm sure you can't just kind of focus on that, because then it's just going to be like consistent photos of the signal and the word and all that stuff.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. I guess my kind of going into this, like I said, I had no idea about the Wow Signal. I knew about SETI, and I knew about, the search for that and just what they did, but I didn't know that this signal existed. I didn't know anything about this. So it was interesting to kind of learn all that, to discover what went into it. And I do appreciate, because I remember when we were going to first do this, I said, hey, this is what we're doing. And the first thing you said was, they just proved that. Right. And that's fine. But I do like that they address that they do address some of the detractors to what they're talking about.
They do. I mean, they clearly want they clearly want to just brush them off.
Well, I mean,
within the documentary, they want us to keep believing, which, trust me, I'm an older guy. I want to believe, but I also, when it came out a few years ago, they mentioned at the end that the pair of comets probably made it. The argument for that is actually far more compelling than just John Krause, the guy who created the telescope, said, yeah, probably not, though. Like, of course he says that.
But they said in the end of the movie, it says it was disproved or wasn't proven, or but the person that said it was the two comets.
Yeah.
But my other thing was, why couldn't it could have been a spy satellite? Because here's the thing. Why would they tell you it was, oh, no, why if it was a spy satellite that nobody knows about, why would they admit to, oh, no, guys, don't worry, that's a satellite? They would just be like, yeah, keep thinking what you're thinking, whatever. You know what I mean? It could be something like that, too.
Yeah, but
not that I'm trying to say that this doesn't exist.
I think that's why they go to the Perkins Observatory.
Right.
I think they'd be able to see it in the night sky. Like, hey, here's what we've recorded.
Not if it's a spy satellite.
I think you'd also know, like, from distance and light and stuff like that, you'd see where it was in the night sky.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows? Like, I don't know what they record in terms of, like, visually what was in the night sky at the time.
Right. So would you say that this, because the last one we did was the Maserati movie, and I made the comment that that movie is probably more beneficial or in terms of more interesting for people who love cars, love those style of cars. I think you kind of have the same thing with this movie. Like if you're into astronomy, even if you're into like X-Files or into just kind of the unknown, or I think this movie would appeal to you just to kind of see, because it is talking about a pretty significant moment in astronomical history, the WOW signal, whether you believe it or not.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It did create waves both ways. So I think it is interesting just to kind of that. And I didn't realize this was in 1977. This one had happened. Like, so I didn't realize that the big year, knew nothing about that.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in that, I think this would be something you should see, you should watch.
It's true. I did think that its history on radio astronomy was really interesting. I like the way that that's the approach it took to build up to the WOW signal. I've actually seen a couple of documentaries about the WOW signal before, and I knew about it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of people who would go looking for this would already know about the WOW signal.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the fact that they talk about the WOW signal, but they more talk about how it was found. The technology that went into finding the WOW signal was more interesting to me than the WOW signal itself, because they didn't put out any information to me in terms of the discovery that was new, because they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
They found it after 11 p.m. on August 15th, 1977, and it was a weird signal. Boom, done.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought what was interesting is I liked the idea of how they built the telescope, because I'd never seen a telescope like that before.
How about when the telescope collapsed and they showed the telescope that was
the first
ruined?
Green Bank
I was like, how did that happen? Like, I wanted to know, like, how did that collapse? Like, I was interested in that. But yeah, go ahead.
Disrepair and stuff like that.
It was like destroyed.
But when I think about telescopes, and including the WOW signal, that's what I thought they used. Mm-hmm. I had never seen like a telescope like that. The big ear that was built with aluminum foil on the ground, like a football field size, and then the flat wall parabolic, and then the curved, and it bounced the signal off into the scoop that picked it up. I thought that was the most interesting part of the documentary, how they built that satellite.
I thought it was, it's too bad that obviously they plowed it in because they put the country club. But I thought the guy at the end who was showing, hey, this is what it is. And he was basically saying, listen, it didn't work anymore. It was frozen.
Right.
It couldn't move. And honestly, we're past that technology. So he was like, listen, I get it. It's a piece of history, but it served no purpose.
I enjoyed that too. Like I
was like, that's like level headed. It's like, okay, thank you. Yeah. Even though you were wearing rainbow suspenders.
You wore that to show about the curvature of the light.
I know.
But yeah, I thought that was funny. But yeah, I liked that kind of I liked that a lot of the scientists were just kind of, that they used were just kind of very level headed, very matter of fact.
Absolutely.
About things. Even if the director of the documentary maybe wanted them to go another way with it, I liked that they were sticking to their guns of, we don't know, we want to disprove. That's one of the things.
But I think that adds, I'm sorry, but that adds validity to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Is that you don't know what it is. And the first thing they tried to do when they got the signal was disprove it.
Right.
That's good science.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm all about believing in aliens. I absolutely believe in aliens, first of all.
Well, then you don't. Do I believe in that one dude in
Probably,
there?
Yeah.
That one dude in there doesn't agree with you.
Yeah. The people that believe that, I understand if you wanted to believe that we've never been visited, sure. But to believe that in the vast universe there's no intelligent life, it's
really tough. It's really tough to kind of I get it. We're not scientists, but I would think that scientists or people that look beyond the stars to see other life, they got to think that they are basing what life out there is like based upon what life is here. And it's like,
exactly.
like we are a carbon based people.
Yeah.
There are species that probably live with different kind of base system, at whatever environment they're in.
Exactly.
Now, I agree with you. I don't know either way, but I think it's foolish to think that it's just us, because then that's a little bit egotistical.
Yes.
But regardless of that,
But that level-headedness, that it's great because I also I believe in aliens, but I'd like to believe in ghosts because I think that's cool. I don't know if I do or not, but I enjoy, one of the things I like is I used to watch the show Taps on Sci-Fi Channel. Every episode was kind of boring because most of the episode was spent disproving everything because they wanted to find proof. They didn't want to just be like, yeah, oh man, that's totally a ghost. They were like, nope, that's an electrical signal. Your circuit breaker is putting out so many like the EM readings off the charts. It's affecting your head. So you're starting to get nervous or freak out when you're next to something like that. But I enjoy that using science to disprove it. Like when everything else has been crossed off the list. What's that great quote about how if there's nothing possible, you have the impossible is the only thing that can be. Like, I can't remember the quote.
All right. So you're talking about Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yes.
So because Arthur Conan Doyle used to, before he wrote Sherlock Holmes, or while he was writing Sherlock Holmes, he used to debunk mysticism. He used to debunk people that people do seances. And he would say, once you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth.
There you go.
And that's also from Sherlock Holmes. So
yes.
There you go. Good old AC Doyle.
Love that quote. And that's exactly what these scientists are doing. Like, they want to believe.
Sure.
SETI wants to find aliens.
Yeah.
Real bad.
Sure.
But there's a reason that they haven't just come out and say we find aliens. And they find out and disprove it all.
And he made that comment too, that he said that there have been other signals that have been significant, more significant than the wow signal, but they disproved because, through whatever it was. And that was like that. He's like, there was a stretch for like 16 hours where we thought that, this was what it was.
Right. Yeah.
And it was like a satellite.
And it just happens, he talks about how it's the wow signal is a triumph of branding over products. Absolutely. Because, there are other signals that are mysterious that they haven't been able to prove or disprove, but they don't have that great wow next to the name that really makes you go, ooh. You don't have a signal going, if the signal was just called 6EQUJ5, you're not going, oh man, I love 6EQUJ5.
Yeah. So I will say that if anything, this movie does spark the conversation, which is what you want in a movie. You want it to spark a conversation. I like the Drake equation.
The Drake equation, going into the Drake equation is really good. Well, the Drake equation is obviously, he's one that really kind of tried to start the scientists who actually tried to start the actual scientific search for extraterrestrial life. And he created an equation on here's what we need to look for, which was basically N equals R star times FPXNE times FL times FI times FC times L, which is basically galaxies that might be communicating are the rate of the star formations, how many stars can be created, how many stars have planets, then the number of planets. Then you multiply that by the planets that might have life, multiplied by the number that might have intelligent life. And then you multiply that by civilizations with technology times a lifetime of communicating civilization. So how long does a civilization that can communicate like us, how long do we last? And you can't really, some of that you can't figure out yet because we don't know all the answers. And we don't know how many planets there are with life. We don't even know how many planets are in most solar systems yet. We haven't gotten a good idea, like a baseline, I don't think. We know that there are way more planets around stars than we originally thought, but we don't know exactly how many.
We don't know anything.
Yeah. So it's like a lot of this equation can't be figured out yet. So you can't just throw it out. You can't just say, it can't possibly be true. But until we figure that equation or the steps to it, we'll never figure out exactly how many civilizations
maybe once we colonize the moon and then we put a giant radio telescope on the moon pointing out, so there's no signals to be interrupted from Earth. There you go. Of course, then they're probably going to put satellites around the moon, so then we'll be screwed. So yeah, there you go. That works. So, I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the information. I mean, but like maybe I'm just a nerd that I'm okay with getting information like that. It's not really, they don't do a lot of, they do one kind of reenactment scene. And that's when he writes the wow signal, when he writes wow down. Yeah. They don't really do it's just basically interviews and B-roll footage, which is fine. It's not really a dynamic documentary. Right. In terms of kind of pulling the audience in.
Which, again, like with the Maserati one. Yeah. Maybe slightly shorter would have helped it.
Well, this one's only 88 minutes.
I think a documentary like this should be a little shorter and try to get on like the History Channel and stuff, which I mentioned before.
Yeah, I agree. The content is what's interesting, and that's gonna bring people to the documentary. Right. Keeping them there is what's basically going into the documentary. It's probably, you're right, probably needs a little bit more whatever it needs. Maybe reenactments. Maybe not reenactments, but just, it's basically just B-roll, interview, B-roll, interview, B-roll. And I do appreciate them going on tangents. Like I said, talking about SETI, talking about the high school intern Ellie, kind of highlighting people that are
continuing the search,
right, or affected by the WOW signal. I mean, they talked to that one guy who was like doing it on his own in his house, and
because he's the author of books on the WOW signal,
right? And I even appreciated his honesty at the end when he's like, "Look, I'm paraphrasing. He's like, look, I'm not a professional. I'm the only one still looking for it, but like, I'm not a professional. I don't know what I'm doing sometimes. So I mean, I could be missing stuff. I do appreciate the honesty of the people involved in it. So because they're not trying to sell me a bill of goods. They're just laying it out there, as is, like you said, and they're being scientists. So I do like that.
I like that a lot of people are also saying, I'm doing this thing and I'm putting a lot of effort into something that within my lifetime, within the next 10 lifetimes might never be found. Mm-hmm. But we need to do it because we need to try, because it's a shot in the dark, but it's a great shot in the dark.
Yeah. And I would have probably liked to know more about the people involved with the WOW signal, not just in terms of when it happened, but like why they wanted to be astronomers, what actually went into them, what inspired them to take this path.
Right. And they were volunteers at that point when they found the signal. So what made them want to join the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, I thought would have been interesting. I do like that Ellie is like showcasing her as the future of the search. I thought that was interesting. I would have liked to have seen more about some of the other signals. The WOW signals competition, if it were.
Gotcha.
I would have liked to have just maybe a little bit more like that 16 hours thing, or even the couple that they don't have answers for yet, where he says they're just as mysterious as the WOW signal.
Right.
You just brush up on a couple of those.
Well, I think this is supposed to highlight just what it set off. Right. What that kind of set off, because this was the first time that they recorded anything down that, they, in terms of this kind of signal.
Right.
So, and it was, like I said, they did do into the history of the radio telescopes and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool too.
I like that their computer at the big year had only 16 kilobytes of memory.
Quality. Did they have that new 56.6 modem? 28.8. Oh, it's 28.8. Hear it hum. That's a hacker's reference for anybody out there. So just to wrap it up, I think it's definitely interesting. It's definitely, if you're into astronomy, you should check it out. You should probably read up on the WOW signal. Like I should have probably read up on the WOW signal, because like I said, I had no idea about it, which is actually pretty cool, because I went into it like that going, oh my God, really? What is this? And then I was like, oh, wait. I should point out, and I didn't point it out at the beginning, obviously TriCoast Entertainment approached us on this, but they didn't no way pay us to do this. And just these are our opinions. These are not shaded by anything other than the fact that we watched it and we told them we talk about it, and that's what we're doing. So I just don't want you to think we're here. It's not a propaganda machine going on over here. It's just I should have said that in the beginning, but I'm saying it now. So check it out if you'd like. Thanks for listening to this little bonus episode. If you are interested in our voices and what we think about other movies, our other podcast is called Forgotten Cinema, and in that we talk about movies that maybe were forgotten by audiences, whether it's a movie that didn't do well in its initial run for a variety of reasons. We just go back, kind of talk about who made it, what went around that movie in terms of the production and the acting, design, everything. We just talk about the movie. We've done such movies as The Nice Guys, Devil in a Blue Dress, Strange Days, Near Dark, Hudson Hawk. We are in our 4th season, so we're about to start our 4th season, depending on when you listen to this, and we're going strong. So check us out. You can find us at ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com. We're on all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Forgotten Cinema. And we just some commercials so you can see what we look like. I'm the tall one. So that's it. So do you have anything else to add?
If you're interested in finding the WOW signal and watching it, became available on January 21st. So not that long ago. It just came out. You can find it on FlixFling, Vimeo On Demand, Amazon, iTunes, Google Play, and more.
All right, cool. So check it out, guys. Thanks for listening. I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And this has been Forgotten Cinema, now showing.